Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome back to another Lost the Plot video. And no, your eyes do not deceive you. As promised, I've said it for the last 4 weeks, we are back together as a foursome, ready to review one of the biggest films of the year. And yes, as you can probably tell from... I say probably tell, no one can bloody see it really.
I'm going to say, I'd honestly forgot it was there.
Yeah, there is a Black Panther here in front of us as a lovely...
You're having way too much fun stroking
symbolism. That is possibly the softest material I've ever felt in my life. It's quite satisfying.
Ooh. That is nice.
Ooh. Yeah. Right, we can all touch my Panther after the video, but we'll wait for that. That could be like a specials DVD.
Oh, we can make some fucking money on that.
Extended edition.
Extended. Director's cut.
Yeah. Just keep on wanting more. Just like...
So, back on with the film in hand, but before we review it, obviously, we've not had one for a while. We're all excited to see what it entails.
Don't build it up too much. No.
It is.
It could be.
James's unpopular opinion.
That's right, he's back. Are you ready?
Well.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Now, you've already spoke about this at dinner time earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to keep referring to dinner time because it just sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that is... eggs are absolute bollocks. Why would you ever think about eating one? Everything about them is wrong.
What nice little chicken fetus.
Yeah, exactly. Yum, 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 yum. Yeah. Give me all of that.
Chicken fetuses taste lovely.
They don't.
I'm gonna disagree with you there, James. I think eggs are absolutely sensational.
They smell like shit.
No, absolutely not. Only if they're rotten.
You're cooking them wrong then.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Have you not ever just smelt one, like cooking?
A raw one smells shit, yeah.
A raw egg smells of nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well...
A cooked one was
There's no smell to a raw egg.
I suppose a rotten
There's eggs over there. If you want, crack one open and they will smell of absolutely nothing. It's until you cook it.
Yeah.
And if you cook it well, James, superb. Got omelettes, fried egg, scrambled egg, poached egg. No. The versatility of it is absolutely sensational. I'm sorry, I disagree.
Well, that's fine.
Like if you were pushed,
you're wrong.
Which of the various forms would you actually partake in?
I don't want it when they've mixed in as ingredients of stuff because they're just sticking stuff together, really, aren't they?
So
cake, yeah.
Cake.
Cake wins everything.
So you don't like full English at all?
Without the egg, it's fine. Actually, you know what? The mushrooms can bollock off as well.
I disagree with that statement. Also,
to be honest, anything eggs, bananas, and mushrooms, they're my three I can't be doing with. They can all just bugger off.
I'm refraining. That's fine, James. That's your opinion. This is why
that's what you wanted. So there you go. You have
this segment.
Food ones do seem to be the most divisive, don't they? Jesus me. That's why I thought I'll just throw that one in.
Well, the first one you whacked out there was bacon, and me and Matt were ready to scrap you. To be fair,
what was it? Barbecue sauce. That was a bugger and all, wasn't it?
Oh,
Good God.
Oh my God.
I've just had barbecue sauce.
I know. Could have cried watching that.
Yeah.
Horrendous behaviour.
Right. Moving on with the video. So, obviously, as we've already said, and as you could probably tell by everything so far, we are reviewing the biggest, or one of the biggest films to be released this year. There's been more hype around this film than a lot of films, I'd say.
There has been, but like we were saying as well, like it's been probably the good thing where the good thing out of the really bad situation of the whole making of the film is the fact that I feel like it's been left alone a lot more than a lot of other films, but particularly a lot of other Marvel films. They've just gone, we can't really say too much about this because we don't want to bring up anything that might sort of, I don't know, like jeopardise the people that have worked on it.
Yeah.
They've just went like, oh, okay, no, we're not going to do this because most of the time it's taking the mick out of a film or making some story out of nothing.
Yeah.
When they've just tried to keep the drama really low, which has been nice.
I'd say it nicely surprised me. It was like, oh God, yeah, that film's coming out like next week or whatever. I didn't feel like it was overhyped.
Yeah, I probably should have reworded it, and it's probably one of the highly anticipated, not hyped up. It's been very highly anticipated by, I think,
it's been done
everyone.
tastefully.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And Marvel normally fail at that miserably. To be fair.
Yeah, and I mean, saying that as well, it's like I deliberately avoid anything Marvel just because of the amount of stuff that they'll
Trailer wise, you mean?
They'll reveal in terms of like any sort of promotion they'll do. I look at nothing, so I get surprised by stuff because I just hate the way they.
I feel like Marvel fans have to do that more
like...
because we had this discussion loads around the Infinity Saga. They release far too much in trailers, and then therefore when you get to the film, things aren't a surprise, and it takes away from the experience of watching the film. And just to make sure we're aware, we are talking about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. And we are going to talk about the whole film as sort of a construct. We're not going to go positive, negatives. We can just talk about conversations and bring up points as we please. Because, to be honest, I think we're all in the same boat. We will give it a rating out of 10 beforehand, which is always the best rating system for anything, because it's all very subjective and we all have very different views. So, Matt, we'll start from you. Out of 10, what would you give it?
I've gone with an 8.
I've gone with an 8.
Yeah.
I've gone for 8.5.
Oh, he's gone points.
I've gone just for a point because I couldn't quite decide. I know. I just wanted to.
No, it's all right. We'll take the 8.5, James. Thomas?
Yeah, I've gone for an 8.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, I've gone for an 8.5 as well. I thought you were going to have it.
No, I don't do. I'm not the only one who doesn't do.
I'll round it off. Yeah, I'll happily round it as an 8. I don't really want to go much past an 8. Like, do you know what I mean?
That's not proper maths, James. If you're rounding it up, 5 goes up.
Round it down. You know, I don't care. Look, I don't like maths.
Right, so let's talk about it straight away. James, since you've given it a half point, you can give us the first topic we can talk about to do with the Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Well, first of all, there was a lot of characters in there, but the one thing that stood out for me is everyone, no matter how small their role was, they all seemed to make an impact to the story, or they weren't wasted. It weren't like they were just shoehorned in at all. It's like, alright, for example, like Riri Williams, introducing her. At first, when I first did that, I was like, "This is a bit weird." Introducing that character in this film,
and one of the easiest to do too much.
Yeah, exactly,
definitely.
And I was like, "Okay, I do want to see this character, but it just doesn't seem right." But then, in actually seeing her in the film, it's like, yeah, this was actually spot on. She was dealt with really well, like her character arc or whatever. Well, I don't know if you want to call it an arc, really.
Yeah, it wasn't really arc, was it?
It was just more of an introduction, I suppose.
Yeah.
But the way they introduced her and integrated her into the story of it all, I was like, yeah, you know what? That's all right, actually. You've not overdone anything here, like you were just saying. They've not just gone, oh, look at this. This is a new Iron Man character or anything.
Yeah.
And she was just really cool.
It takes you back to, and this is always the comparison with Marvel, Infinity War Endgame, where there are so many characters. There's such a depth in the cast that people only get small bits of screen time, but they've done it well and developed it well, so that those that get screen time, they're important at the time, and they sort of don't overdevelop a character or underdevelop a character. That they are there to impact that scene at that specific time. I like how they did that. I agree.
Like M'Baku for me as well. He's probably him and like Nakia. They were probably only on screen for 10 minutes in the whole film. But then, I mean, M'Baku especially, I think he probably made more of an impact in this film, to me, than he did in the first one. And I know he was more of an antagonist in the first one, but I don't know, he just sort of stood out more, almost, in this one. Yeah. Even though it was more subdued, his role, probably. I don't know. Just little things like Nakia as well. Played, like, her role in it, again. Didn't really show up much.
When they brought her in, I forgot she was in this film, you know?
Yeah.
Because it was quite late
not a surprise, wasn't it? Yeah.
There was a scene where it just cut to her and how they introduced her with a certain character, and it just like I was like, oh wow, I forgot she was even in this film, or even in the first one. Like. And then she was done really well in it. With what she was, every character had made sense as to why.
Exactly.
In the film.
That's probably the best way to put. Like, it's not necessarily what's right or what is wanted. It's just what makes sense. Yeah. And it seems so obvious now. What makes sense is just giving these the room they need to breathe, because you've got nothing, I'd say largely across the whole film, but particularly with the characters you've got, they weren't overdone, but no one got shortchanged either. So that's
agree. It's what DC have struggled with it quite a lot, where when they've introduced characters, they've tried to introduce too much of them instead of just having them naturally there. It's like, we know fans of Marvel that these people exist. You don't always need to give us an origin. That's why Spider-Man was so successful, because it wasn't an origin, was it? It was a sort of coming of age sort of thing, and that's, I think that's the best way in a universe so expansive, that the best way to do it, because then we're all sat there going, they've done it really well. Even all of the, what are they called? Namor's people.
They're from
Talakans.
The Talakans, even the Talakans, we'll go with that, because I'm not entirely sure what they're called. Even those, there were some
We're English, we're going to butcher the pronunciation.
Well, they had some quite significant figures. It wasn't just Namor, was it? But ultimately, we just accepted their role. We knew they were important, and happy days. Thank you very much.
Is like, what information, like, I can see some people criticising it, but not necessarily this film on its own, but similar approaches like that, where they're just like, oh, what's this, or who's this person? It's like, well, you haven't got that information because these characters haven't got that information. That's the point. If we just got this, we said about the you brought up about the like skin changing colour. You see them blue, and then you get the origin story, and then you see this one bit, and they just look like humans, and then it's basically, it's not going to explain, oh, these altered humans now change colour.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to come up with this explanation, just a spoon feed you, which again makes a change for this kind of film.
Yeah, and it's not, there wasn't a lot of unnecessary exposition.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like, that is a prime example.
Yeah.
When they're out of water, they're blue. When they're in the water, they are whatever colour skin they were beforehand. That's fine, we get that. And then it's sort of explained through Shuri and her fighting Namor, in the sense that they become dehydrated or dry out, whatever, and they turn blue because of that oxygen, whatever the bloody word is.
Science.
Science. And it's like, we're happy to accept that. And I feel like what Marvel have done wrong is put too much needless exposition in there a lot of the time, because we're not idiots.
Yeah, I mean, like,
we aren't anyway. Can't speak for all of you, but
well, might be. But like, even coming back to the characters in that kind of treatment, we've seen particularly with Marvel, we've seen the alternative of what this film did. So like, even with something like Infinity War, Endgame, which again people come back to, but when you've got that amount of characters to deal with, that amount of story, it's like, anyone that likes some of these characters, be it Wanda, Falcon, any of those kind of like lower tier characters, or like the ones that haven't got as much attention, if you like that character, you almost have this sense of who they are beyond what you've seen, even though they've only been on screen for like a matter of minutes across their whole series of movies. So then they've been these characters that have then wedged into a series that's then gone to give them more depth, and has served that to a point. But for the people that didn't need it, they didn't need it. For the people that did need it, they'll see the next film that they appear in, and the series will be sort of unnecessary anyway. It's just this jumping point. So I think it makes so much more sense to sort of treat these characters with that room, because then you don't need to rely on these sort of fallback things of just being like, oh, we've got to fill in the gaps now. Just don't treat people like idiots, basically.
Yeah, no, completely. And building on your point of characters, can we mention Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda as being absolutely superb? What a performance!
Yeah.
And even Letitia Wright as Shuri, I thought was excellent, and I absolutely loved that the film was based on her dealing with grief through T'Challa and through her mother. I thought it was a slower pace, but it needed to be, because it matched the tone that they were going for. And I've seen people complain about, the middle part was too slow, not enough happened. Well, no, it did, because it allowed us to get to know this character of Shuri, and sort of sympathise with her and make her that relatable character. This was her sort of coming of age as one of the leading roles in Marvel, and I feel like they structured it and paced it so well that we sort of appreciated her a lot more, instead of just going, she's the new Black Panther, deal with it. We actually got a love for that,
it
for
was
her
the necessary
character.
breathing space that you needed, wasn't it?
You can tell it. Sorry,
carry on.
You can tell at the start of the film she's not ready for the role, and then she comes into it through the film, through what she goes through her mother teaching her, showing her the way of just stepping up, basically. And I thought it was good as well. I loved the bit where Killmonger was sat in the throne, where she walked round the corner, and it was like, who's it going to be? And then he sat there going, you alright? Like, yes. Loved it.
I like how they had that sort of, it's not a juxtaposition, I don't know what the word would be, but where it's Ramonda, that's her name, isn't it? Yeah. She was saying after Shuri sort of disappears about losing everything, and then to have that actually happen for Shuri later on, where she was the one losing everything. I was like, they've sort of mirrored that quite nicely.
It's that circular narrative.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You English teachers,
it's beautiful.
Knowing what you're on about.
And the film is about grief, and I feel like we started talking about it and not really mentioned one of the main points of it, that I feel like it was a fitting tribute to Chadwick Boseman.
I like the fact they just throw it straight into the beginning.
I loved it.
Here it is, sort of thing.
And even, to be honest, the first sequence, I was a little bit like, why was that needed? But then I thought it fit really well into Shuri's storyline, and even after she's lost everything, that sort of need to know that she could do it.
Closing it.
And that closure of, okay, I could have saved him, but what we've managed to do is sort of rebuild the heart-shaped herb and then and go again. I thought it was well handled, and the ceremony I thought was brilliant.
Yeah, because they could have gone one of either ways with that opening. And I think both were like a fear, probably, of just being like, are they gonna completely move past it, so go straight to the time jump?
Yeah.
Or, which would have been fine, but I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
And then the other alternative was something where they do try and go a bit over dramatic. They try and make a big scene of it. They try and make a big event out of it, and just turn it into this spectacle that is then just like, it's just a bit too blunt.
Yeah. I just said it in the Woman King review that I did. I love African culture, and I love how this film encapsulates it. Like the wearing the white and the ceremony, dancing and celebrating the life of someone instead of. And don't get me wrong, we see it through Shuri, and we see it through the Queen, but it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. I think Ryan Coogler is a fantastic director.
Yeah.
Because they had to rewrite a lot of it.
Yeah, and I mean, it sums up the whole, like, how the team probably dealt with it.
Yeah.
But obviously, you got the acting sort of family behind it, and I said, like, other than Guardians, and I mean, it's one of the only saving graces of Eternals, and it's one of the tragic parts of Eternals, is the fact that these actors, they're those ones, and it's only odd ones, even with something like the MCU, which is quite mainstream and popular and requires a lot of faces and a lot of people.
Yeah.
They seem like genuinely close groups of people, and obviously there's tragic circumstances involved in this movie, but we do obviously get that benefit of seeing these people actually still come together and create something else. So they're basically like, they've been working on this anyway, and then they've still had to come up with something else, as well as like losing someone. Right?
Yeah, and I saw I can't remember, it was an interview. I've watched a lot of interviews, it's all I seem to mention with any of you guys at the minute. Someone said that before they started refilming Black Panther, they all visited Chadwick's grave, and I thought, what a fitting and a nice touch to sort of embody the tone and what this film's actually for. And I feel like that idea of grief, that message of grief and how people deal with it was for Chadwick, because a lot of people are grieving, and it's how you deal with that and how you create something so beautiful in the memory of someone.
Yeah,
and I thought it was very fitting and very beautiful.
It's not what they were like going for, but like it always comes a bit sort of like self-aware sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that intro is the fact that they're basically not even like really. They're just putting reality into the fictional setting, like all really what they were describing. They could have described something really over the top,
yeah,
but they didn't. And it's I think it's this. We've explained it, haven't we?
Yeah. Right, Matt, give us another topic.
I don't know if it's just because of the grief that we've discussed, but the mature tone of this film, I loved it, and obviously I feel like it had to be mature to pay respects to Chadwick or whatever, but I don't know if they would have done that anyway, you know, if he hadn't have passed. But the fact that they did made this film so much better for me. It was the biggest plus I have about this film, because a lot of the Marvel films recently, mainly Thor and Doctor Strange and
She-Hulk was pants.
Yeah, and the TV series that have come out recently, they've all been too light-hearted and too, I don't know, just annoying.
Yeah, I'm with you. No, you're absolutely right. Annoying, forced.
And the way this film feels like a proper, I'm not going to say proper film, because obviously the Marvel films, when they're needed, do have good comedic films.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, I just really like the dark tone of this film.
Do you know what it reminds me of? The Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Because that was sort of similar, where the films before that were fairly light-hearted.
You
a
feel
lot
like
of them.
Past the point,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
again,
and you get to that point, like we did with the Winter Soldier and the Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and we sort of realise, you said it in your story so well, that Marvel can actually make a serious film, and Marvel can actually make a film that is impactful and decent, and have the storyline to carry it, not all these little comic skits and sayings. I completely agree.
With that as well, they did have those little bits of humour in there, but it was just all natural. It wasn't it wasn't like forced or anything.
Yes.
It was just natural, tiny little phrases, or just the odd little thing, wasn't it?
Agreed.
And it just works.
It put my faith back in Marvel a little bit with the tone of this film, because the tone of Thor completely put me off.
Yeah.
What I like, looking forward to new films.
Yeah.
But this one, you know, makes me realise they can do this again. And
and they should do more of it.
The first one I've fully enjoyed, like every minute of it since probably Endgame.
Yeah.
Because everything else since is sort of, it's like literally every movie it's just dwindled and dwindled and dwindled for me. It's just like, oh, they've knackered that one again. Oh, there they go again. And then this one, it's like, oh, there they are, they're back. That's what we want. Because the only other thing I've seen recently like that was the Werewolf by Night presentation thing they did. That was like, oh, that's what they should be doing. This is exciting again. And then again, it was that same feeling watching this.
Yeah, there's these independent stories where they're not. It keeps coming back to this, like what makes sense, and so much of the stuff doesn't make sense when they're getting these characters wedged into these wider storylines. Like, certain ones will need to be strictly as part of that, and obviously that comes down to how the franchise as a whole wants to move. But these independent stories, the bulk of it should be these independent stories where you've put in these characters in this place, so the next time you do want to pick up with them, or you maybe want to wedge them into some of these team up films and these ones that are a bit more just for show, it's not just come out of the blue. Like, they are where they are.
Yeah.
Because they've gone through their own.
And there's when the film and the story is good in itself, you can naturally have things that link. Like, you don't need to force it upon people. You can have characters across multiple films without explaining their reasoning. You can have events happening across multiple films without explaining their reasoning. And I feel like you can do that, and that is acceptable. Like, is it the director that's in numerous end credits and stuff like that, or is that a different person?
No, he's in quite a few of them.
No, not he. The woman.
So I was leaving.
She's across a lot of things, isn't she?
Contessa, I don't know what she's called.
But she's in multiple projects of Marvel, yeah.
Oh no, I'm with you now.
So that her in herself is a good way of making everything link, without saying, "Oh, we're all part of one universe."
it's just like understated, and I think that's where like a
stay
lot
with
of
me, guys. Stay with me.
No, I'm with you. So,
I can't remember. Why? It's because you said director. I think it's because we all started to think of like an actual director.
She is the director. She's the new one.
Yeah, but as in we're like, I think not me. I'm just thinking. I think you're making people think of like a film director.
Oh God, my apologies.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, my apologies. But yeah, I agree. The tone spot on. I like it.
And unexpected again, because even you said Werewolf by Night, but not expecting it. But again, it's kind of like understated. Like mature, but more in like a justified way. It's not. So many people are like clawing at R-rated film, superhero, this, that, and the other, and they'll say like, "Oh, if their favourite one's that, fair enough. The best one is this." It's like, well, or this written rule that like the best superhero film is going to be an R-rated film. And it's like, well, it's just because these things have just removed the borders of what's acceptable. The things that aren't R-rated have too many constraints where they just have to make this generic stuff to just pump out.
Yeah.
So that's why you've had these gems that have come out that just are obviously R-rated films. Mature is the best word to describe this one, because it wasn't. You can't just say it was just because of just violence or this, that, or the other, certain tones. It was just the actual like the stuff they weren't afraid to deal with and to put into what is still this fantasy story.
Yeah.
Because you've got these just mad like fantasy superpowers going at it. And it's just like, well,
yeah, it
could be daft, but they're not accepting that and giving away. They're just going, no, we're going to keep to what we're trying to.
Yeah,
do.
I feel like this is a film that very much knew what it wanted to be, and did a very good job of it. Tom, any more points you want to throw out there? Because to be fair, we've talked about quite a lot.
Yeah.
The storyline, the characters, the tone.
I think like all of that, because it's touched on a lot of the points I wanted to make anyway. I mean, I'll start with sort of the character bit again, which is just the understated introductions, basically. Like, it dealt with a lot of bigger introductions, or introductions that are going to mean a hell of a lot to some of these things that are going to be connected.
Yeah.
So it was worrying to think, oh, it's just going to be connected to too many things, it's got too much going on. But be it Namor being the obvious one, they could have, and it had still been successful, but they could have just gone so overboard. And as much as it was really impactful and he made such a mark on it, it never seemed to be showy. It never seemed to be done in this way that was just an attention grab.
Yeah. I did. Linking to Namor, I really enjoyed him as not necessarily. Wasn't necessarily a villain, was he?
Well, he is the sort of anti.
Well, he is.
He did want to take over the surface world.
Yeah, and
it's that literally
that motive. Sorry, yeah, that motive for me, I felt was a little bit weak in itself. Because I really enjoyed him as a character, but I also did feel like he was just put there as a villain for this film, because compared to his impact in the comics, I feel like it wasn't as large. But I feel like that's because the story was mainly focused on Shuri. Yeah. Anyway, which I'm fine with, but I just felt that Namor could have been I feel like people didn't love him or hate him. That he was just there and people enjoyed his presence. Whereas I feel like that there needs to be an extreme with the villain, like we see with Gore. Brilliant motive, strong. I just didn't feel like Namor's motive was as strong as it potentially could have been.
I think this comes back to what we were saying about Shuri, the dark tone, and her actual the movie being hers sort of thing. In the sense that one of the fears and expectations of a lot of people probably was, whether you liked the idea or not, this storyline was going to happen at some point, particularly in terms of Shuri at some point taking on the mantle or something like that. It was bound to happen, but it was obviously quickened up by the biggest unexpected turn that they could have planned for or not planned for. But then that could have just been wedged in, like you said. It could have done it in such an unjustified way of, here's your new superhero.
Yeah.
Here's your new Black Panther. So yeah, it seemed like, not just because they're trying to make you relate to Namor, but you didn't actually like Shuri much of the film. Like, not to the point where she was annoying or anything like that, anything that drastic. But because of what she was going through, it highlighted how isolating that experience can be for people, in the sense that she was almost coming across as the villain sometimes, and that was the whole weighing up between the two of them, where they're the MCU's got more of a problem for that anyway, which just gets joked about, and it's like, they're past it probably, but it's this whole like, oh, you've got your hero, be it in the first film or the second film, whatever, they're going to go up against the same, basically an evil version of themselves. And even Black Panther is like Killmonger, yeah, like the best part of Killmonger is when he's literally just not in a suit, because when he's in Black Panther suit, it's just Black Panther fighting Black Panther.
Yeah.
And that's just purely visual. But yeah, most films like that, it is just a cheap way of doing it. It's just what we're used to. This literally did that in terms of their whole, like, the journey, and they're sort of mirroring each other, and they're realising, oh, we're literally in the same position. We're at the head of this this fantasy sort of world superpower that could literally just do what we want.
Yeah.
And I think it's that kind of just like, who's right, who's wrong. And I think that's probably why they didn't push too far. But like I said, I think they could have easily not overdone Namor, but done loads more. And I was almost surprised they didn't.
Yeah, but again, I feel like that's down to their focus on Shuri, probably. Yeah. Because I completely agree. Yeah. Like I like Namor, but I just feel like he wasn't as impactful maybe as he could have been, and I feel like the end battle that was built up towards was quite underwhelming.
That's
I got really worried.
That was the biggest negative I had, was the final act.
Go on.
Yeah, because you got more to say.
Yeah.
Because the attack on Wakanda in the middle of the film, I thought was amazing.
Yeah,
and I thought that was the best scene of the film for me. And compared to the end battle, just felt like there was no stakes, or obviously their lives are at stake. But like when he's attacking Wakanda and you can see all the civilians are fighting for their lives, and it just felt like the next battle was underwhelming compared to the one that just come before, and I just felt like I wasn't as emotionally invested in how it ended, and
agreed.
And the way it ended as well, I just thought was a bit.
I liked how it ended.
I liked how it ended for the Shuri's character and everything like that, but with Namor, I was a bit.
Agreed. I agree with that, and that it goes back to this. Feel like I don't think they did enough with Namor, but I completely agree with what you're saying in the fact that his character arc sort of finished at a pretty poor place, I thought, from the film, because we saw his grief, we saw him as a person, and we saw his power that he has, and then ultimately it was just like, okay, Namor's going to go back into the water and just wait now. I just thought it was just weak. The ending.
And then them fighting over the sea as well is just like, if they all lose and die, then there's no stakes to it, because the civilians aren't in danger. There's no, like, I don't know. I just feel like he'd go back to what he was planning anyway, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then the Avengers would be called in to stop him or something. It's just, there's not really, like, it didn't feel as impactful as when he brought the fight to them and you weren't expecting it, sort of thing. I don't know. That's just
I completely agree.
It made that sort of middle fight so much better, and maybe it wouldn't have been if that was the climax of the film. If it was him attacking Wakanda, I think that's just like, it would be this expected turn.
I get what you're saying.
You've got this recognisable structure. Like if you break it down, like everything was basically the same as a lot of the other films. But there was so much where they might have glossed it over, like a little time sort of thing or something like that. But the way they dealt with a lot of things, it was kind of a bit. It was almost like they could have gone non-chronological with some of it. It only shown itself in a few scenes, but the change of that, like the most worrying part of that final battle for me was that, like they caught him really quick, and I was dumb enough to think like, oh, like they've only been attacked for like 2 minutes. Like, what's going on? And then I realised I was dumb enough to think it, because it's just like, well, yeah, of course, it's like there's more to what's going on. It's not just done. So I was glad when it continued. Obviously, I admit it didn't continue to much of anything different.
Yeah,
it was just more fighting.
Yeah.
But then it did seem to be just like sacrificing that to get Shuri and Namor going toe to toe on their own, just separate from it.
Yeah, but
it seemed to be that was
you still could have done that in a more engaging and entertaining way, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean,
I completely agree with what Matt said, and you said maybe if the climax of the film was Namor attacking Wakanda, I'd still feel like that would be 10 times as better as how that final battle panned out.
But I don't think that in isolation would have been as good than where it was. That turning point, it's like in a trilogy, like the whole Empire Strikes Back kind of vibe, where you literally you end the sort of middle film was just like, oh yeah, well basically like we're sort of like, where do we go from here, sort of thing. And so a middle part of a film on its own, not a trilogy or a series or something, middle part of a film just being like, yeah, everyone's basically like, we've lost at this point. Like it makes it's not like a new thing to do, but it's just like it seemed it's a lot better than that just slow crawl to this big thing. And I'm not saying it went peaked and then dropped again, because to me it didn't. It's just refreshing to have that difference, really, I think. But
yeah, I get it.
It was nice to not just be like, oh, one of them's dead, we're done.
No, I don't, and we're not. I'm not, and I know Matt isn't as well. We're not saying that it should have finished where they attacked Wakanda. We're saying that the ending itself didn't live up to what it could have been. Even if you take Queen Ramonda dying and the attack on Wakanda, the end battle I think would have been poor regardless, because, like Matt said, there was no stakes. Ultimately, the Wakandans are going to the ocean to fight Namor and his army that's just completely unstoppable, which straight away is a losing situation. So it was completely, I know we're talking about a bloody superhero, but unrealistic and ridiculous in itself, the plan. And like, there was no stakes to it, because what happens, the Namor and his army go back into the water and Shuri's dead, okay, and then they take Wakanda. I just felt it was stupid.
Yeah, I'm not defending it. I'm literally, I kept trying to say, like, when you're talking about it, like, the logic of it is beyond me. Like, the fact that they went, someone or whoever was in the decision making, as in Shuri, just went along with it. Like, bringing out basically anyone who's capable of protecting your country. Bring them into the place where your enemy's the strongest.
Yeah.
Like,
and survive,
because that's where I expected one of the little quippy sort of jokes or something, because it just seemed like I was generally just looking like, why have they chose to do this?
What a great plan.
But yeah, so like, I'm in no way defending what they actually
okay, good.
did.
I thought you were for a minute.
The thought process of it, like that bit, like, no, it's just the fact that it didn't clearly bother me as structurally as much as it did. Okay,
that's fine. You? That's fine. We can accept that. Me and Matt aren't going to scrap you at the end of the video. Yeah. Before we wrap up, anyone want to add anything else? We've talked about the whole film and a lot.
Just the soundtrack, really.
Beautiful,
it's fantastic.
Beautiful,
and the use of the silence as well. That punched you a bit, didn't it?
The whole thing is just one of the best examples of it.
It was just nicely done.
Yeah.
these different these artists just coming together on this one thing rather than just this sort of cut out thing where it's just like, oh, let's just pump out the next film.
Yeah. No, I like it, and I completely agree. Soundtrack beautiful. The song at the end with the Shuri on the beach, I thought was superb, and that little sequence, because it sort of rounded the whole film off. That actually, she is holding it back and stuff, and it was
like
excellent.
We spoiled like everything in the film anyway.
Oh, well, it's a review, isn't it? So.
That's I'm saying we did it quite chronologically.
We'll tell them at the end of the spoiler.
But it's
I'll just put a flash up at the start.
But I mean, as my final point, I hate opening night.
Yeah, I hate opening night.
I was ready. I'd have ended up on the telly if people said one more word.
Yeah, the two people next to me, they deserve to be pushed down the stairs as they left.
2 people were talking next to me as well.
Oh,
during a bit where they were grieving
eating
as
too
well.
loud.
Yeah.
I wanted to hurt people.
I would agree, and I hate people in the cinema, but I had a lovely experience. It was silent. Yeah. Like the screen was full, but there was only a little bit of rustling. Other than that, everyone was very much engaged with the film.
I winced at the what was it? I think it was when it was probably when the Marvel banner came across. It could have been one of the other bits, and you just hear, oh no.
Kind of spoiled the moment for me.
Yeah.
So
thanks for bringing your auntie.
So if you are watching, don't talk next to Tom if you ever see him in the cinema.
Don't talk in a cinema at all.
Yeah, to be fair, not
to talk
it's a
about.
good
just
rule.
next to Tom.
But point being, that got to the end credits, and I was so scared there was going to be a second credit scene. The credit scene.
Yeah, I'm happy there wasn't.
And literally everyone moaned. This is what I'm saying about going on the time we did, where it was just packed.
I like that they didn't.
We were the only people that probably just sat there.
We sat there and probably
it.
smiled. The guy next to me generally was like, "That's bullshit!" Like proper, literally everyone can hear it. I was like, "Just piss off,
just shut up,
get out."
That's the problem. Everyone expects this Marvel formula of 2 end credit scenes and all these comedic humour and
which
just,
they've done from
again, the theme of the film. It was refreshing.
Yeah,
thank you.
just enjoy what you've watched. I'd have loved it if they'd have just put at the very end. It was a black screen and just had in memory of Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
And then, thank you very much. See you later. Thanks for coming. You don't need anything else. Just before we wrap up, I know, and I've praised Shuri, and I do. The storyline was brilliant. I loved it, and I loved the fact that the way in which she became the new Black Panther. I would have loved to see M'Baku become Black Panther, just for pure shits and giggles.
Did he challenge for the throne?
And yes, the end.
Why have you done that?
I don't know what's happening. I didn't understand that bit. If I'm
see, won't we?
Yeah, but I think James said we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens.
I think that's literally just let's set the foundation for whatever we're doing for the next hour.
I don't know. I can't. I'm not even gonna explain.
Yeah, you've opened up all the things we probably wanted to talk about but forgot to talk about. Yes. We could keep talking.
Well, that's it. We're wrapping it up there. So
that says it. Yeah, it leaves enough to lead on for the next stuff, doesn't it? And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
I just didn't get it.
I was confused.
Yeah. That was the only part where I sat there and gone, why have you done that? Other than the fact that they attacked the people in the ocean that live in the ocean. Irrelevant. Right, that's the end of our review. We hope you've enjoyed all 4 of us being back. It's been very refreshing and nice to talk about it. It's quite hard to get all 4 of us around a table at this moment in time. But we will try and get more to you. And obviously Christmas is coming up. So again, expect some more Christmas themed videos. Wink. And we shall see you in the next one. Bye guys.